Project Server, and/or Project Online, depending on what version of project you're using. And I'll also share Microsoft's overarching vision and roadmap for project portfolio and work management. Matt is one of Tivity's Microsoft product gurus, and he has a long history of architecting and deploying amazing solutions built on Microsoft technologies. Please note the phone lines will be muted during the webinar. However, we will be taking questions at the end of the presentation, so please feel free to use the GoToWebinar questions panel to ask your questions. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Matt, and we'll get started.
Cool. Thank you very much, Michelle. So today on our agenda, we have a few different things to cover here. One of those is Microsoft's project vision. So the first thing that we'll be talking about is, what are Microsoft's goals? What are their vision for the project product as a whole, including Project Online, Project Server, etc. Then we're going to be taking a quick look at what's new in Project 2016. So we'll be seeing all the new great features that you can take advantage of to get more value out of the tool. We'll do a little demo of those features so you can see them in real life and how they work and how you can interact with them and how that all works. And then we'll take a quick look at the future roadmap. So we'll see not only what they're doing in 2016, but what are they planning to do in the near future. So there's lots of cool things lined up that you can take advantage of as those start to come out as well. At the end, we'll do a couple of questions and answers. So feel free to put your questions in the chat window, as Michelle mentioned, and let's go ahead and get started. So what is their philosophy? Really the philosophy is to have a comprehensive tool set on all different devices, on the cloud and on-premise. So what is a comprehensive tool set? Well, a comprehensive tool set is really multiple different tools to handle all different types of work and collaboration, etc., but all within one place, within one experience that you can access from multiple different devices. So that's everything from mobile devices, tablets, phones, etc., to laptops, desktop computers, any different device you're using, you should be able to access all of those comprehensive tools. And then those tools can be deployed either in the cloud or on-premise. So if you're currently in on-premise and you want to move to the cloud, it's definitely a good way to go, and we'll be talking about some of the different benefits of that. But you definitely have the option still, right? You can go on-premise if you need to, and you can go to the cloud if you need to, and you don't want to manage those different systems anymore and have infrastructure for it and such, and people to manage that. So from a project and portfolio management perspective, what are the different areas that they're focusing in? Well, one area is alignment. So alignment is really making sure that you're doing the right projects, the right work, that you're putting your resources, your costs, your people, etc., your equipment in the right places, and picking the right projects and the right work to do that's going to give you the most value for your business. So optimizing your portfolio to make sure that you're doing the right things. And then you also have reports and visibility into those things so you can keep track and make sure that what you picked was right is still right, and you can adjust over time. Also, from an execution perspective, you have to manage project schedules, you have to manage resources, risks, track time on these items so you can see how much time you're spending doing these different things, and then report into all of that data. So they're definitely putting a focus on the execution area as well. And then third is collaboration. So not only do we need to manage these schedules and do we need to be picking the right projects, but we need to work together and collaborate and share documents and talk to people and communicate through Yammer and different Office 365 capabilities like that to be able to get this work done in an efficient manner and really tie everybody together as one team, whether you're in different locations or not. Project, if you don't know, has over 20 million users, which is huge. It's the most used project management tool that there is out there. Every 20 seconds there's a new user added, which is crazy to think about how often people are becoming new users of Project. Over 10,000 organizations, all different organizations, as you can see here, big names like Qualcomm, Volvo, Honeywell, etc., all use Project. So over the last decade, there's been a lot of changes, a lot of innovation in Project. In the past, though, you had to wait 3 years or so to get new releases. Every 3 years, they would come out with a new release that would have some new features, and there would be kind of some major theme within that particular release. But in 2013, what happened was they took that and they moved it into the cloud. And what that's enabled them to do is not only have a place where you can go in the cloud where you don't have to manage it, but they can also give you features and capabilities and bug fixes, etc., a lot quicker than they used to. Literally every few months, they're updating Project with new bug fixes, new features, etc., and you just get those things. You don't have to upgrade or anything like that. It just works. So it's a huge value proposition to be able to not have to do anything, not spend months and a lot of money on upgrades, etc., to get these new features, and you can just get them as they come out, as they do things, and they don't have to wait 3 years to package those up and push those out to the market. So big changes there, and if you're not in that cloud area, that's somewhere where you might want to get, and that's definitely something that we can help you with. So for 2016 in particular, though, there were 3 areas that they focused on within those major goals that we talked about, right, within their vision. One of those areas was desktop enhancement. So that's talking about Project Desktop. So there are a few new features in Project Desktop. One of them was multiple timelines. The other is a more fluent UI. And then there's some app type capabilities where you can allow apps to work better within Project Online, like writing back to the project schedule and those types of things. Resource management was definitely a focus area. There's a new resource management feature that allows you to basically request and negotiate resources. So a project manager can say, hey, I need these people, and request that from a resource manager, and they can negotiate and then fulfill those resources and come to an agreement. Okay, you get these resources in this period of time. We'll talk a little bit more about that. And then lastly, there are some IT type changes, more on the back end, of databases and such, and things that you can do now that you weren't able to do before, more from an IT admin type perspective. So let's deep dive a little bit more into these desktop enhancements to start with. So the first one, as I mentioned, is multiple timelines. So why would you want to have multiple timelines? Well, timelines can get pretty crowded. If you have really big schedules with lots of different tasks and milestones, etc., and things overlap each other, your timeline can start to get really crowded and difficult to read. What this allows you to do is separate that out into multiple different timelines. You can color code things so that you can see them more visually, more easily, but break it out. And you probably want to break it out in a meaningful way. For example, phase 1 might be one timeline, phase 2 of your project might be another timeline, or maybe you want to do different types of tasks. All of our development tasks are going to be in one timeline, while all of our other tasks besides development will be in another timeline, that type of a thing. So it's very flexible though, and you can break it out however you want. And we'll actually take a look at that in the demo of how that works and how you can break out multiple timelines. There are also multiple desktop enhancements. One of those enhancements is the app write back. So what this allows basically to happen is when you install apps into Project Online, there's been apps around, different add-ins that you can install into Project Desktop, for a long time. But now they can do more things than ever, and they're going to keep building on this so that you'll start to see more and more apps pop up that can do more useful things to help you manage your project schedules better, easier, quicker, etc. Those types of things. So that's really the big capability there. There's also a new feature from a user experience perspective. As you know, in Project, there's lots and lots of different buttons, different tabs, etc. There's all different types of things you can do. It's a very, very powerful tool, but sometimes it's difficult to find the thing that you want to do. So what the Tell Me feature does is it allows you to actually type and tell the system what you want to do. So for example, you type in, I want to set a baseline, or I want to look into the Office store, or whatever it might be, and we'll take a look at that feature as well and how easy it makes it to do everyday types of tasks within Project. Lastly, and this is where a lot of the big changes were in resource management. So specifically, there's a new interface within Project that allows you to build a resource plan. Basically, that means it allows you to request resources. Excuse me. So you can go into Project, you can build your resource plan, and you can say, I need an accountant for this period of time, I need a developer for this period of time, that type of a thing, all right within Project, and it makes it really quick and easy to do so. Then you can come in, and once you've requested those people, you can say, well, actually, in July, I need them full-time, but in March or August or whatever, that type of month, I need them only 50%. So you can start to adjust your resource plans right within Project. You never have to leave Project. So if you're a project manager, you work in Project all day long, when you're in there, you can also request resources right from within Project. Then once you request those resources, there's a new interface for Resource Manager, so they can go to one place to see all of those different resource requests that are coming in from the project managers or whoever's requesting resources. And then that Resource Manager or Department Manager, whoever it might be who approves resource requests, can come in, see all of the requests, check who's available and who's not, and then approve those particular requests and pick them, say approve, or say, you know, instead of Ali, I'm going to go ahead and give you John, that type of a thing, because he's more available and Ali has too much already going on. So there's a new view to be able to see very quickly, very easily who's over allocated or not. So you can see anybody in red we should stay away from in that period of time, whereas if they're blue, they're way under allocated, we're not utilizing them enough, we should get them on some work to make sure that we're getting the most out of our resources. So there's some new reports and views from a resource management perspective that you can use to get an idea of who's over allocated or not, which we'll take a look at in the demo as well. So from an IT perspective, what are all the cool new things that your admins can do and the infrastructure changes that have happened within Project 2016? Well, one is traditionally Project and the SharePoint database have always been separate. But now in 2016, they're combining those together so that when you add Project to an on-prem environment, is what we're talking about, then those databases will actually become one, and that just makes it less databases to back up and restore, less databases to manage, easier to pull data out of, et cetera, whatever you might want to do, just brings it all into one place. Also, if you're familiar with SQL Server Integration Services, which is basically a tool that sits in Visual Studio, more for developers, that allows you to grab data out of different applications and bring it into a SQL database so that you can report on it. If you have a tool that connects to SQL reporting data, like for example SQL Reporting Services, then you might want to go and grab that data via the OData service is the new capability. This existed before, but now you can tap into that OData service, pull data out, and report on it if you're a developer and that's something that you need to do. Lastly, there's been an enterprise focus, so there's a whole new feature called PowerBI, and we're going to take a look at how PowerBI can tap into that OData feed that we just talked about and generate some really nice, useful dashboards that can give you visibility into what's going on with your project portfolio. So when does this all become available? Well, Project 2016 is available immediately if you're part of the Office 365, if you have an Office 365 subscription that includes Project, you can go get that right now. So you can go download that and start using that. And we'll take a look at that today. The new service side features like the capacity heat map that we talked about, the resource planning, those types of things, they're deploying that out onto Project Online right now. So if you're already on Project Online, you can get all of those new capabilities as they come out. You'll see a little ribbon pop up that says, hey, the new features are here, do you want to activate them, that type of a thing. And it's literally just one checkbox to activate it, so it's super, super easy. So definitely, get to Project Online so you can start getting all of these capabilities just as quickly as everyone else. If you're not on Project Online, if you're using Project Server, then you'll have to wait until the spring release of Project Server when 2016 Project Server comes out, and that's when you'll be able to start upgrading and getting some of these new capabilities that we're taking a look at today. So, what does Project look like? We're going to jump into a quick demo now. So let me go ahead and pop open Project here, and let's take a look at what this looks like. So one of the features we talked about was the timeline feature and being able to create multiple different timelines. So you can see here I'm in Project Desktop, and I'm looking at two different timelines that I've created here, and I've broke this out so that the first phases of the project are in one timeline, and I'm just showing milestones in my particular timeline, and I've color coded these so you can visually see them separately. But I can come in, and if I drop this down a little bit here, it's really simple. If I come into my timeline tools, I can create a new timeline bar is what they call it, and that adds a third timeline here, and it's as simple as drag and drop. So I can drag and drop if I had a lot of different tasks in here or different milestones, etc. I just drag and drop those where I want. If you want to color code things, you can simply select that and come up here and change the color to whatever you want it to be. And you can make it really easy to visualize that timeline, and then you can even export it out, and there's some cool features like that that allow you to export that to PowerPoint or Word or whatever you might want to do if you want to present the timeline, say, to your board of directors or something like that. So it's a cool new feature that allows you to break up those tasks into multiple different timelines, organize them better so you can more visually see them, give some meaning to that timeline. So beyond the timeline then, another new feature that we talked about is the tell me what to do. So basically the way that works is you come in here and you can start typing and it's going to tell you to do something. Like let's say I want to change the outline level, that type of a thing for my particular my project schedule, or if I want to level my resources or whatever, it's actually searching the words that I'm typing in here. A really cool use case, though, brings us into our next feature, which is all the cool new apps. So you can come in and you can type in Office, or you can type in Store, for example, and it's going to bring you to the Office store. And I can pull that up, and I can see all the different add-ins that are available to me in the Office store. And we talked about some of the different capabilities that are now available for some of the different apps, like writing back to the tasks and such within your project schedule. Let's say I want to use this Task Auditor app here. I can go ahead and click on that, hit Trust It. It goes out to the store, downloads it, and it loads it in. So now I can come in and select one of my tasks, and it actually audits that task to tell me if there's any problems with it. Is there a constraint that's causing a problem? Is there a baseline that's not set? Those types of things. You can see this task is all good, but other tasks might have some issues. So you'll start to see lots and lots of more apps popping up that can do more useful things with all the new features that they're adding into Project. So into the last new feature in Project Desktop is the resource management features. So what I'm going to do is I'm here in my normal schedule, but if I click up here on my View tab, there's a new option called Resource Plan. So if I click on Resource Plan, it's going to do just that. It's going to load up my resource plan. I'll collapse my timeline there so I have a little bit more room. So what I'm looking at here is the different resources that I've added into my resource pool for this particular project. And then below that, I can add an engagement for that resource. And what an engagement means is I am requesting this resource for this period of time, for a certain period of time, and I'm requesting them at 50% or 100%, or you can do this in hours, etc., that type of a thing. So for example, right now I'm looking at my timeline by month. So I can see in October, I'm requesting Adam Barr here for 50%, right, half time for this particular project. But if I switch this from months to, say, weeks, now I can look at it at a more detailed view and I can plan at a week level. I can even get down to the day level if I want. So it's up to you the level of granularity that you want to plan at. So if you want to plan at the month level, which is usually what we recommend, month to week level, then you can do so. But if you need to get down to the day level, I need this person 100% on this day for sure, and you want to put that into the system, then you definitely can do that as well. So the way it works then is once you figure out what level you want to plan at, you come in, and I have some people here that I haven't yet added an engagement for. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Like for example, Gatis. So I'm going to come in and I will click on engagements. And it's as simple as clicking on that person and saying I want to add a new engagement for that person. So I'll do that. You can put in a description for the engagement. So I say I need him to work on building new server infrastructure, that type of a thing, right? And then you pick a start date. So I need him to start in December on the 14th, and then you can pick an end date. So I need him to work until the end of January, let's say. And then the way you say how much time you're going to need them for is you can do it in a percentage, a units percent. So I can say I need him 50% of the time, or I need him 75% of the time, or 100% of the time, that type of a thing for that period of time. Or you can do it from a work hours perspective. So you can say in that period of time, I need him 80 hours, that type of a thing. I like to do it in a percent. It's easier. You don't have to try to calculate out how many hours you need him in a particular month and that type of thing. So let's say we need him 50%. You can put in a comment, so when the resource manager gets this request, they can say, I specifically need him because I've worked with him before and I know he knows, these systems well, whereas someone else will have more, ramp up time to learn these new systems that they'll be working with, that type of a thing. Say okay, and you've now requested that resource for that period of time. Once you've requested them, though, as I talked about, you can come in and you can make changes. Well, actually, in December, I needed him for 50%, but now I realize in January, I need him for 100%. So I can come and just make changes to those things on the fly once you've added them. So what this allows you to do is possibly before you even build a project schedule, you can come in and you can build this resource plan at a high level to say, I think I'm going to need 2 developers, 1 infrastructure, 1 project management person. I'm going to need them full-time or part-time for this period of time. And you can start to get a better idea of what resources you're going to need and if they're available or not before you even start your project schedule. So it makes it really quick and easy to do that. Now, on the flip side, if you've already created your project schedule and you haven't got your resources yet, there's a way that you can do that too. So if I switch back to views, and I'm going to go back to my Gantt view here, basically, each resource that you put in your project schedule and assign to a task, if you don't already have an engagement for them, like if you haven't already gone and built a resource plan like we just did and engaged that person for the right period of time, then it'll show a little icon here saying that this assignment needs an engagement. You haven't yet acquired that resource. That resource hasn't been granted to you, that type of a thing. So if you come in here and you say, I want to fix it with the engagement inspector, then it pulls up a little wizard that's going to walk me through fixing that so that we get that person for that period of time. So this is kind of a different approach. Instead of going from the high level kind of top down and saying, I need these resources for this period of time, you can go bottom up and you can create your project schedule, and then you can go and add engagements for each of those people once you've created your project schedule with all the tasks. So all I do here is I say I want to view the problems here, and then I can either assign the task to a different resource who I already have, who's already been assigned to me for this project, has already been approved to work on this project, who's available, or I can create a new engagement. So I'll go ahead and create a new engagement. It pops open the same window here. You fill it out and it automatically puts in some information for you, like the start and the finish of that task. You can put in, it puts in what percent you need them at, kind of calculates some things out for you to make it easy, say okay, and you're good to go. So that's another way that you can really build your resource plan, request the resources for a particular project. On the other side of things, you can specify in Project Online which resources require engagement. So some resources might require engagements, meaning you have to put in an engagement in order to be able to use them in the project. Whereas other resources you might leave to not require engagements. You know, maybe it's someone who does a lot of ad hoc work and you don't want to constantly be approving that person to do work on different projects and things. They're kind of jumping around and do little tasks here and there. Maybe you leave that off so that they don't have to request an engagement, but they can if they want to. But you can require it or not, so you have the choice to do so. But once the project manager has built out the resource plan and they've put in all of these different engagements, then it's up to the resource manager to approve it. This is not a required step like I just mentioned, but it's something that can happen. You can make it required if you want to. So what I'm going to do now is I'm logged into Project Online, and now I'm taking the perspective of more of a resource manager. How does a resource manager interact with the system at this point? How do they approve these requests, basically? So let's say I'm in charge of all of the different project managers, right? I'm a PMO type manager, and I'm in charge of, you know, assigning the project managers to different projects. Well, I come in, I select all the different project managers here, and I'm going to click on the resource requests button up here in the ribbon. What that's going to do is it's going to look out into the system, it's going to find all of the requests for my resources, and it's going to show them to me so I can now come in and start to approve or deny these things. So you can see some of them here are already committed. If I wanted to, I could switch views and filter those out so I just see my proposed ones. I don't see the ones that I've already fulfilled, the ones I've already committed. But I can see there's some ones here that I haven't yet fulfilled. So for example, for this particular project, the e-commerce portal development project, the project manager of that, who's named Daniel Williams, is requesting a project manager part-time, and if I come over here into the side, I can actually see what period of time they need them in for how many hours. You don't have to look at this in hours, you can switch that to FTEs if you want, that type of a thing. But now I need to find someone who's available. Notice they requested a generic. So you can do generics or you can do standard named resources. It just depends on the process. If the project manager already knows they want a specific person, they might request that specific person. If they don't know who they want, if they just need someone who's available, then they might just put a generic in there like project manager. So you can see you can request both. And if they request a project manager, now what I need to do is figure out, okay, which project manager is available in that period of time, starting in about November, going through about January. So I flip over to my capacity planning view here. And this is a new set of reports and views. Some of them are familiar to the old ones, but there's some new ones that didn't exist before. Like, for example, this one. So what this is showing me is based on all of the engagements in the system, right? So people are going and they're creating engagements for these different resources across all of your different projects in your portfolio. This is aggregating all of that up and showing you who already has too much work, right? Who's committed to work on too many projects. And you can see very easily here in the heat map, if it's red, then they're already over allocated. So we want to stay away from those people in this particular period of time that we're looking at. If they're blue, then they're really under allocated, so we do want to get those people some work so we can make sure we're utilizing those resources. And if they're white, that means they're somewhere in the middle is really what this is telling me. So I can see that Jonas Brandel has no work in this period of time. He's completely available, so he's a really good candidate. So I flip back here into my resource requests, and I'm going to go ahead and assign Jonas Brandel to that particular assignment. So I come down here to my proposed. All I have to do is double click on this name right here, and that's going to pop open all of the different project managers. Here's Jonas. I select him, and now I can say accept. When you accept, you can accept all. I'll go ahead and accept it. Or you can just do one at a time if you want to do one at a time. So you can kind of do a bulk accept all, or you can accept one at a time. You can even add engagements from here. You could switch people. Hey, I already gave you Daniel, but I know that we actually are going to need him on a different project because he has a specific skill. You can come in and you can make changes after the fact. That's going to notify the project manager. So if I actually come back here into projects and go back into my resource plan, under engagements, I can hit refresh, or the next time I open my project schedule, it'll pull that in. But it's going to give me a little notification that's going to say, that new resources have been committed to your project. And so you go, cool. You can view those. You can see who was actually committed. It takes you here and it shows me, here's Jonas. I just got Jonas approved to be my part-time project manager for this particular project. Now I can start to assign him to some tasks and switch him out wherever I use that project manager. So you can see it's a full process back and forth of negotiation. Not a required process, but it can be. That's up to you. You pick and choose how you want that to work. So with that, that's definitely the big area of where the changes were made. But you can see there's a lot of new cool things that allow you to get some really good value out of the tool. And if you're online, you can get those things all automatically. You just click one box and this whole resource management just pops up and starts to work. So it's a really good way to be able to get access to these different features. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and jump back into our presentation here, and we're going to take a quick look at the roadmap. We'll answer some questions, and then we'll let you guys go. So what does the roadmap look like for projects? Well, there's different themes that they have. One of the themes is a work-life experience. So not only being able to manage within Office 365 just your work, part of your tasks and work, etc., and documents and things like that, but also your personal things. So if you have a list of groceries or whatever it might be, start to have capabilities to tie those all together into one place. So you can go to one place and not only see the things you have to do for work, but the things you have to do in your personal life as well. Then another theme is that they're building it for teamwork. So really, the ability to be able to communicate and collaborate, they're going to continue to work on that, connecting things together, making it easier so that I can work with you even if you're in a different location. That's all really huge. Lastly, then, the integrated experience, right? Tying that all together then, so bringing in new features like Wunderlist, for example, which was recently acquired, which was a task management system, really lightweight, quick, easy task management system, integrating that into the Office 365 experience, integrating that into projects, bringing that all together. So maybe for some of the project, you want to manage it with a project schedule, but then you want to take some of those projects and break them down into a Wunderlist list of tasks or something like that. They're really trying to work on integrating things together. Now keep in mind this is all things that they want to do. These aren't necessarily guaranteed, but these are things that they're looking at, they're thinking about, they're working on, and things that they're trying to get out. So the different features that they're coming out with aren't all in the project portfolio management area. So in the past, project online, project server, et cetera, have really been focused around project portfolio management specifically. And that's really great. That's definitely an area that you need a tool and you need some processes and some governance, et cetera, to be able to manage that correctly. But there's other types of work within the organization, lower complexity work, like just simple task management. I have some ad hoc to-dos or action items that I want to capture, and I want to make sure people get done by a certain period of time. Well, they've acquired, like I said, Wunderlist. calendar lists to be able to help out with that. In the work management area, that starts to get a little bit more structured, a little bit more complex. You have more people involved, more of a team, maybe an ad hoc type of team involved. And they're coming out with new features like a planner, et cetera, that we'll talk about to be able to track that type of work, but without having to go full-blown, have a project schedule and use Microsoft Project to manage that type of work. So they're really trying to create not a one-size-fits-all, but have different tools that all integrate together and work together to be able to manage all the different types of work. There's different trends that are going on in project management, and that's also affecting their roadmap. So one of those trends is agile project management. Pretty much all organizations these days, like 90% of organizations, run some of their projects in an agile fashion, maybe not all of their projects, but agile is very predominant. It's being used a lot, so they're looking at that and how can we do more, create more features, etc., to manage projects in an agile manner. The proliferation of devices, so using mobile devices, tablets, mobile phones, etc., and with different operating systems, if you're using iOS or you're using Android or whatever it might be, different operating systems, being able to support all of those, right? Because everyone wants to use the device that they like, but they still want to be able to connect to the services they want, the Office 365 services, Project Online, etc. And then lastly, consumerization is a big trend. There's a significant growth in consumer types apps for task management. So you have lots and lots of different choices out there, but their goal is to really consolidate that, bring it all together into one place so you can manage all of your different types of work, including just your very low, easy tasks, low complexity, I should say, tasks, and bringing that all into one place. So let's talk in a little bit more detail about some of the things that they're planning on doing. The very first area is a redesigned user experience. So this is specifically talking about Project Desktop. One of the main big improvements that they're working on right now is being able to take Project Desktop and use it online. So if you're familiar with, for example, that you can edit a Word document or an Excel spreadsheet or a PowerPoint presentation, you can edit that online in Office 365 using the online browser-based versions of Word or Excel, etc., without having to open it up on your desktop. Think of that same type of an experience. You go in, you say edit your project using Microsoft Project, and it can edit it right within the browser within a very similar experience to Project Desktop currently gives you today. Streamlining that a little bit more, integrating it better. There's lots of new cool things that they're doing to it, but it'll look and feel very much similar to that. Then there's agile capabilities that they're looking at. So we talked about that's a big trend, right? Agile, being able to manage agile projects. So there's a few different things they're doing. One is within Project, they're actually trying to build capabilities into Project to allow you to manage a backlog and then to take that backlog, prioritize it, and plan those into different sprints, etc., so that you can manage a project in an agile fashion, an iterative fashion, right from within Microsoft Project in that online browser experience. Also, they're looking at integrations. So two of the integrations specifically that they're looking at to possibly do sooner than later. One is Visual Studio Online. Visual Studio Online is the online version of Team Foundation Server, or TFS, which is a tool that allows you to manage agile projects as well as source code, etc., some different capabilities like that. But being able to integrate that with Project Online so that you can send data from there into Project and get a full view of your full portfolio, all of the projects that are going on, both agile and not, and bring that all together within one place, but still allow your agile teams to use the tool that they want to use. If they're already using Visual Studio, no need to try to make them use Project if that's working for them and that's a good tool for them. Also, there's a Jira integration on the roadmap. So integrating with Jira to be able to use Jira to manage a project in the same use case, send that information back into Project Online so you can see your full view of portfolio, your full portfolio of projects, resource load, etc., across both your Agile projects or not. Program management is an area that they're putting some time and energy into as well. That's program/portfolio management, I should say. And really some of the features that they're looking at building and that they're working on is being able to, in Project, so like in Microsoft Project, be able to view a portfolio of projects and to group them or show which projects are part of which program, which ones are part of what portfolio, and do some roll-ups of that data so I can see, okay, these 5 projects are part of portfolio A, and what's the total cost? What's the total budget? What are the total amount of timesheet hours that we're spending on these projects? And roll it up to the portfolio level so you can get more visibility into what's going on with that full portfolio or program of projects. Financial management is another area that they're investing into. So they've acquired a tool that allows you to build high-level time-phased cost plans. So what does that really mean? Well, instead of the way it is now in project, you would track costs more at the task level with different types of costs and such. You can build a higher level plan. So for example, for my project, I can say in January, my budget is going to be $1 million. In February, it's going to be $2 million. And you can break that down into categories to say $500,000 of that is on labor, $20,000 of that in January is on equipment, et cetera, et cetera. So you can break it down and build some high level cost plans to start to get a better idea of budget. You can track actual costs in there, et cetera, that type of a thing. So a different way, and got more of a higher top-down type of way of managing your costs. There's some different reporting capabilities that they're coming out with too. They acquired lots of different reporting capabilities that are actually built into the Project Online interface that allow you to see and visualize information out of the box with no configuration or anything like that. It all just kind of works. And there's drill through capabilities within that. So if you were to go into a particular report and you're looking at, say, budget by department, and you want to drill in and see which projects are taking up the most of that budget for that department, you can click in that type of a thing and see the next level of data, what's behind that particular chart that you're looking at. Also mobile capabilities, so that you can not only see and view those reports and dashboards, but you can see and view them from all different devices. So like we talked about, that's one of their kind of big themes that they're working towards. So those particular reports will be available in native apps that you can install on some multiple different operating systems and such as they go. And then lastly, Power BI. So they're really investing more into Power BI and all the great capabilities that has. Then the last one there is Planner and Wunderlist. So we talked a little bit about Wunderlist. Wunderlist is, like I said, a task management tool that allows you to quickly manage tasks. So they're trying to integrate that in with Project, in with the Office 365 experience, as well as there's a new planner that allows you to plan in more of a Kanban type of a way where you can visualize tasks and their different statuses and move them from one to the next. And so that's a really valuable integration that's going to help you manage task lists a lot quicker and easier as well. So those are really some of the main areas. If you want to check out the roadmap, you can go to http://office.com/roadmap, and you can go see more details about what they're planning, and you can stay connected on all the different social media platforms. So we do have some special offers that I wanted to mention before we start taking questions here. One of them is that you can get a free Project Online assessment and roadmap. This will be on Project Online 2016. So if you want to get an assessment of what you got going on and see if we can help you to move into the cloud or to get there and to start taking advantage of all these features, we're happy to do that. It's free of charge. The other one is a Project Online trial. So if you want to start trying these features out, if you're not on Project Online but you want to try them out on Project Online, we can set up a trial for you and help walk you through that and get access to all the different new capabilities that we talked about today, as well as all of the other capabilities that Tivity offers. So feel free to contact us at info@tivity.com. You can schedule a demo, we can show you how it all works, and you can ask any of the different questions you have. With that, I realized I didn't show Power BI yet, so I just want to show that really quick, and then we're going to take some questions. So just jumping into Power BI here, it's part of the Office 365 experience. So as you noticed, I'm coming into Office 365 here. I'm going to put in my password. And then it's going to take me over into Power BI, and it's all connected up to all this same data that we've been looking at. So the cool thing about Power BI is it can connect to many different services. They have connectors to all different types of applications out of the box, CRM applications, Google Analytics, et cetera, et cetera. But in this case, we're looking at a portfolio dashboard that's tied into all of that project online data. So we can build really nice, cool dashboards that tie into that data. We can view bubble charts that show things like as we have more ROI or we have more value coming out of our projects, that bubble will move to the right. And as we spend more time on work, it'll move up towards the top. So I can see that the things that are the lowest and the furthest to the right have the most value with the least amount of work or the least amount of cost. And the things that are really high up in the left, we're spending the most time on, but we're not getting very much value out of. So we can start to see where our kind of really good strategic projects are and where our not so strategic projects are. Maybe we need to think about cutting those projects or putting them on hold or seeing why we're spending so much time, those types of things. But you can create all kinds of cool charts and dashboards, as you can see here. And this is looking across your entire portfolio of projects, this particular dashboard. But the really cool thing is I can come in and I can start to actually type and say, I want to see a count of issues by project, let's say. And when I do that, it actually searches through my data and it created this chart on the fly. So it didn't actually just search for a chart that I've already created. It created this chart based on my search. It said, you typed in a search criteria, a Google-ish type of search criteria, and we say that this chart is probably showing the data that you want. And as a matter of fact, it is. But then if I go, oh, well, I don't want it to be in a bar chart. Actually, I want it to be in a pie chart. I just type pie and it changes to pie. Or I want to show it in a card view. I change it to card, that type of a thing. Once you get it the way you want it, you hit pin. You can pin that to your dashboard. And if I come here back into my dashboard now, I can see there's my cards there on my particular dashboard at the bottom. And then it's all just drag and drop. And I can move these things around and put it where I want it and start to build a dashboard simply just by typing search requests, really. The other cool thing about this is, like I said, it taps into all different types of data. So for example, if you wanted to look at your IT portfolio project spend, there's a report in here that I have set up, for example, it'll show you things like that. You can see trends over time of how your spending is going, what percentage you're over and under in the different areas, all different types of things like that. So it's a really great tool that allows you to create some really rich dashboards, deliver those to the people that need to see it, and give it to them in a really nice way where they can even search it and create and update their own dashboards very easily without having to be a developer or something like that. So with that, we're going to go ahead and take a couple questions here now. So I think Michelle's been watching the chat line and she has some different questions from you guys.
Thanks, Matthew. We do have a couple of questions. One of the questions is around, a lot of questions around the resource management features for the engagement management. Can a resource manager reject or change an engagement? And if so, what happens?
For sure, for sure. So when I was in there, I showed assigning a particular resource and then accepting it, but there was a button right next to that which was reject. So when it comes in, you can reject it, which will send a message back to them, and then they can, propose someone else, that type of a thing. Or instead of rejecting it, you can say, well, instead of giving you Adam, I'm actually going to give you Daniel. And you can replace it with another person, accept that, and it'll send that back to them, and they'll be able to see that update. And then they can say yes or no and kind of go back and forth. So it is really a negotiation. I just showed it as you created an engagement, a request, and then we fulfilled it. But it can go back and forth as needed until both people agree, yep, this will work. This person is going to be able to fulfill the need that I have. Cool. Do you have a next question?
Great. Yeah, so around that same topic, what happens if the resource assignments in my schedule don't match the resource engagement plan?
Really, really good question. So if you remember when we were showing it, when you look at a particular task, it gives you that little visual indicator. There's a little icon there that says, hey, you don't have an engagement for this person for this period of time that this task is on. So using that inspector, you can go in and inspect and see which tasks have those problems, and then you can very simply either update an existing engagement, reassign someone else who you already have an engagement for, or add a new engagement for that particular person right at that point from right there, so that you then clean all that up so that you know that you have the people that you need them for the right periods of time.
Great. So one question around Microsoft supporting the resource plans moving forward, the current resource plans versus resource engagements. Are they going to continue supporting that?
Good question. Very, very good question. So for right now, if you're on Project Online and you've already been upgraded, it's an opt-in feature. So meaning you click on the little link, it takes you there, and there's one checkbox that you checked when you're ready to opt into that. They recommend that if you set up more of a dev instance of PWA, and you can set up, I think, up to 7 instances on Project Online for each subscription that you have. So if you set up a dev instance, you can try it out first, and for the pure reason of learning it and training your people on it first before you just go and switch it. So they are giving you a window. I believe it's in September of next year when they're planning on just kind of upgrading everyone. So there is a time limit at some point where they'll just upgrade everyone into the new resource engagement features from the old resource planner, if you're familiar with that.
So on that note, they're asking, how do you enable the resource engagement feature if you are on Project Online right now?
Great question. If you're an administrator, you should, when you go to the resource pool, see a little ribbon pop up at the top. It's a little yellow bar that says the new features are there. If you don't see that yet, it's probably because they haven't updated your environment yet. So they're going through and kind of doing one environment at a time, and depending what environment you're on, you may have already got that and already have that. Or you may be one of the people towards the end, but they're finishing up. They're getting all the different environments done very, very soon here, if not already. So you should see that pop up soon if you haven't already. And all you do is click on that link. It takes you into a settings page, and then you check one checkbox that says, activate new resource engagement feature, that type of a thing. Check that, say okay, and you're ready to rock. I will mention that you also need Project Desktop 2016 in order for the resource engagement feature to work, for that part to show up on the project manager side as well. So make sure that you download that through your Office 365 subscription, because it is available now as well.
And we will post a blog on how to enable the resource engagement so that you guys can access that off the Project-Online website as well.
For sure, for sure. Thank you.
So this is a good question. So what happens to the resource plans that are existing if I turn those engagements on?
Very good question. So you don't lose your existing resource plans. What it actually does for you is it converts all of those into engagements. So once it finishes converting all of your resource plans, when you go pop open that resource plan view, that new view in Project, there'll be engagements all sitting there for you, so you don't have to go and rebuild them all. So it makes it a really easy, quick upgrade process. There's no manual steps or anything you have to do to convert those. It just does it for you when you check that one checkbox.
So in relation to that, when I turn the resource engagements on, how does that impact my resource plans for if I'm using that for the project prioritization?
So if you're using the prioritization feature and you're checking the little box to say include in my prioritization resource constraints and using all of that, which was previously reading from the resource plans, once you check that box, that'll automatically switch to and start reading from the engagements. So when you're prioritizing your projects and it's checking to see do you have the resources to do this project, it will be looking at that resource engagement data automatically, and it'll all get converted over there, so you'll be good to go. You shouldn't have to do anything.
Great. And then one more on the resource engagement was around reporting. So what if we've developed some custom reports that use the resource plans data?
For sure, you definitely can. So the OData service will give you access into all of that engagement data that you're creating, so you can see all of those resource plans, and you can create, say, a heat map report or whatever you might want to show that data over time of who's available, who's not, those types of things. And you'd be able to create that report, say, in PowerBI, like I showed, or any other reporting tool that can connect into that OData feed, that type of thing. Tivity also, by the way, offers a integration type capability that allows you to install an app on top of Project Online that will connect to that OData feed and dump that all into a SQL database for you without having to develop anything or anything like that. It's all just a series of screens that you click through and pick and choose what you want to send and how often you want to send it. And it'll send all that data into a database that can be hosted either in the cloud on Azure SQL Services, or you can host that SQL database on one of your SQL servers. You have the choice when you go through that process.
Great. That's what we have on the resource side of things. I did have a question on the roadmap for the integration with the Jira and Visual Studio Online.
Sure.
Do you know when that is anticipated?
Good question. No, they don't have exact release dates on any of those things in their roadmap yet. They have some kind of planned timeframes, and some of the things they're saying they want to have sooner than later. Those particular ones are things that they have to develop and that they're working on, so I assume those will come out a little later than some of the things that they just acquired. You know, the tools that they go and acquire, they're already done and ready to go, so they just have to really get the marketing and everything together around that training documentation, maybe do some integration. But those particular ones, it looks like they're building, so they don't have a specific date on that yet. As well as with all the roadmap things, none of those things are guaranteed. They're just things they're saying that they're looking at, they're working on, they would like to release at some point in time in the near future.
Great, thanks. So there's one on migrating. So if we want to move the project online, can we migrate our existing data from project server and the existing configuration?
Yeah, you definitely can. So we have tools available to make that process really, really easy. Basically, you select everything that you want in your existing environment, projects, lists, custom fields, you know, whatever it is that you might want, workflows, etc. You pick all those different types of things and you just say migrate, and it pushes those all over into the new system, projects, schedules, and all. And then you're ready to go. There's definitely some planning in that, and we always recommend, you know, it's a good time to do some spring cleaning. You don't want to just move everything over. It's better to just move over the things that you really want, so you can start with a cleaner system that has only the necessities in it. So it's definitely a good time for cleaning. But it's really as simple as that, just going in and picking all the different things you want, moving that all over, testing it out, and making sure that it all works.
Great. And I just wanted to put a note in there for the questions regarding the integration with Jira and Visual Studio Online or TFS Online. We do have a connector that can support that now if you are looking for that. So that's something that you can send an email out to us and we can get you some insight on that. One more question around the cloud. They want to move to the cloud, but they need help establishing a business case to showcase the benefits versus cost. Asking if we have content to help with that.
For sure, we definitely can. So we can support the whole move, as well as even if you need to build a business case. So a lot of times it's really easy to do so. If you have people that are spending time managing your existing implementation, if you have infrastructure that you're paying for, maybe you're using another hosting service to host that for you. There can be very large costs associated with that. And not just the costs, but the amount of time that you spend on things you can be spending on better things instead of trying to manage that environment. As well as upgrades, there's always costs to upgrading, right? And there's a whole big process, and there's downtime, etc. So it really just makes sense to get on Project Online. We can definitely help you build that business case. We've done that. We have templates available that we can do that fairly easily to show, you know, how this is going to hit your costs, how this is going to help with your productivity, how you're going to be able to get all these new features, that type of thing.
Great. Well, I think we've covered all of the questions with the exception of one, which was, will I have access to the recording? And that's absolutely. We will be sending you out the recording. And with that, I will thank everybody for joining. And thanks, Matthew. That was a really good webinar and good content. Thanks so much. And we'll go ahead and close it out.
Perfect. And if you need any more information on any things that we talked about, feel free to go to www.project-online.com, and you can check out all the different solutions and services, etc., that we have available to help with this. So thank you guys, and talk to you later. Bye.